Was for me the most exciting thing scientifically that I've been involved with. She had electrodes pushed into her nervous system, and with my implant, electrodes in my nervous system, electrically we linked our nervous systems together. So what happened when she moved her hand, chook, 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 my brain received 3 pulses, chook, chook, chook. So we communicated telegraphically, nervous system to nervous system, for the first time in the world. Quite clearly now, communicating brain to brain is the next step. We will have the ability to have a chip that you can implant in your brain, that you can have improved communication. Maybe you can have enhanced memory. That is going to be with us. So, should we say, no, we don't want that. We want to stay as we are, as humans. We don't want to go anymore. That's not something humans have done in the past. Humans have gone along with progress. First implant that I had, which is about 10 years ago now, was here. That was a radio frequency identification device. And that just identified me to the computer in my building. So it opened doors for me and said hello and switched on lights. The last implant that I had was a lot more serious, however. The main part of the implant was positioned here in my nervous system, and surgeons opened up my arm and found the nerve fibers and fired into the nerve fibers 100 electrodes. I then had wires running up my arm coming out at this point here. And at this point there was a little connector pad, so I had electrodes that I could plug into the computer. So for the 3 months of the experiment, what I was able to do was to plug my nervous system into the computer and hence onto the internet. And either by moving my hand, send neural signals from my brain, nervous system, into the computer to control things.
There has been a great misconception of what a cyborg is in popular culture, especially things like the Terminator, which describes a cyborg as a malicious, evil thing. In no ways is meant to be that.
But Hollywood's cyborg bears little resemblance to reality. And far from being a science of the future, cyborg technology is firmly rooted in the here and now. It focuses less on creating realistic robots, more on blurring the boundaries between technology and human beings.
A cyborg basically is a redesign of the human organism to allow it to function better in an environment that organism chooses.
I see very much cyborgs as being an evolutionary step on from humanity, a technologically evolutionary step on, as it were.
Some people believe we have always been cyborgs, a growing fusion of technology and humanity. To get to grips with today's use of the word, it helps to go back to its nautical imagery.
The word cybernetic was coined by Norbert Wiener in 1948 to describe the emerging science of control and communication within living and artificial organisms. Wiener coined this term based on the Greek word kubernetes, which refers to a steersman or the helmsman of a ship. This verb also shows up later on as the word govern. Cybernetic systems are systems that are self-governing, self-communicating. They don't involve outside control.
So, does steering a boat make you a cyborg? The body uses the boat to travel on water, and the boat takes the body beyond its natural capabilities. The body communicates with the boat responds. This blurring of boundaries between human and machine means together they are cyborg.
Scientists have estimated we only actually sense 5% of what's happening around us. Very small. There are all sorts of things happening, X-ray signals, ultraviolet signals. We don't Our brains have no notice of it at all because we don't sense it. For our project, we could also stimulate, we could also send pulses of current onto my nervous system that my brain could recognize. And that was an exciting part of the project because for one part, we took ultrasonic signals, fed those signals down onto my nervous system to stimulate my nervous system. So what my brain was receiving were pulses of current dependent on how far objects were away. So by stimulating, I've experienced an extra sense. What I experienced was just one part of extra sense, that is sonar, ultrasonics, which is like a bat senses the world, and a bat uses it to fly quickly around caves.
Some scientists argue that 21st century cyborg technology is essentially about the way we interact with computers. At the University of Reading, Professor Kevin Warwick uses cybernetics to create interfaces between computers and the human world in an attempt to enhance human communication abilities. His latest experiment involves using the internet to communicate with his wife Irena, using signals generated directly by their nervous systems.
I'll be receiving an implant in my left arm connected onto my nervous system. We're sending signals by radio from my nervous system to the computer and then back again from the computer to my nervous system. And as long as everything goes okay, then
I will have my implant as well.
Exactly the same. And what we're looking to do is to send signals from my nervous system, potentially across the internet, down onto Irena's nervous system.
And back again.
From Irena to me. So we're looking at things like movement. If I move my finger, signal across to Irena's nervous system.
I will move my finger.
And
if I feel pain.
Then the signal will go from Irena's arm onto my nervous system. It'll be interesting. Will I feel pain the same way or not? And
maybe not.
Maybe not. And what about excitement?
Oh, it will be interesting. What we feel about each other.
Each other, yes. Or
if I'm excited by somebody else,
surely
you will.
Not. Surely not. And some of those signals would appear on my nervous system.
My feeling is that nothing changed, that I will be still a human being with my human feelings, but Kevin feels that something will change and that we will be in the cyborgs. I want to stay human.
I know.
One groundbreaking application of body-machine communication already offers paraplegic people a mobility they thought they'd lost forever.
Julie, did we have a little accident?
Professor Tim Perkins has developed a system which allows communication between the crank mechanism of the tricycle and a set of electrodes which stimulate nerves controlling some of the muscles in the lower limbs. Julie Hill was one of Tim's first guinea pigs. So far, she's the only person in the group to have implanted electrodes linked directly into her nervous system. Signals from the crank pass via a computer-programmed controller into the implant, stimulating her legs to make a circular motion.
There's a line that runs back to this control box. This is her stimulation controller. As I say, she's got an implanted stimulator. So the connection between the outside world and her implant inside is via this RF transdermal transmitter. And she places this on the right side of her chest and just immediately over where the implant is inside. And that takes the signals via some cabling that's implanted round to the small of her back and into the electrodes on her spinal nerve roots. So that's how it works. All we've got to do, really, is to map out which nerve root corresponds to which set of muscles and measure over which angle of the cranks that the pedal force is actually positive. Because there's no point in doing it the other way around, otherwise the pedals would go backwards. And that wouldn't do, would it?
It's good fun. It's very good for me. It's keeping me healthy and fit. It's keeping my blood pumping. It's keeping my bone density high. It's just, I'm going to have a long, happy, normal life. And it's mainly down to the fact that I can keep as fit and active as I am.
Seeing these advantages of the technology, and hence seeing how poor humans are at doing certain things, and saying, well, why do we have to put up with this? Why not enhance? Why not upgrade what we are and how we do things by linking myself, for example, with that technology? Why can't I have extra memory? Why can't I sense the world in infrared or ultrasonics? It might be dangerous, but it's also tremendously exciting and opens up new opportunities. The way we're heading, perhaps we don't need universities and schools to be as they are now, if we can simply download information into the brain. So the education system will completely change. I think in terms of holidays, the matrix style, all sorts of questions arise. Do you actually need to go to a place when the image of it and the memory of it can be downloaded into your brain? The medical world will change because clearly we're heading towards electronic input and stimulation. The nervous system is electrochemical, and okay, if you have a headache, you can deal with it by taking chemicals, but before long you're going to be able to deal with it as well by injecting electrical signals. That's going to really affect, if you have shares in a pharmaceutical company now, think again, because you're going to be losing money before too long unless that company actually swings to an extent to take on board new treatments, more of an electronic and electrical nature. I would expect critics, because particularly when we look at enhancement, human enhancement, it is going to change life completely. Humans could become a subspecies. Cyborgs, the part human, part the enhanced humans, will clearly be intellectually superior in many, many ways. Just the concept of thinking in 5 or 6 or 10 dimensions as opposed to humans thinking in 3 dimensions. You have a completely different concept of what's going on in the world around you. If I was a cyborg and you were a cyborg and we're communicating by thought and so on, and some human comes along making these silly noises that humans make called speech, it's a bit like now for 2 humans to be communicating and a cow comes in going moo, moo, moo. Well, I don't mind, because I don't want to stay as a human. I don't want to be part of a subspecies. I want to be a cyborg, and I know I'm not the only one.